All right. Welcome to the first session. There's a collaboration between the CCCC Small Business Center and the CCCC Library. This first session focuses on the introduction to the Entrepreneurial Mindset course and to the Library Small Business Guide. And I'm going to walk you through the steps of accessing this course and then also accessing the guide. This is a very straightforward session that should not require too much of your time to get set up and to access the guide. The next two sessions are going to be more about market research and industry reports. They're going to be a little bit more concentrated and intense. So this is sort of just like a nice introduction into what we have to offer here at the library. My name is Morgan, and I'm the Outreach and Assessment Librarian, and I can be contacted by phone, which I have up here on the screen, you can see, or by email. Either way is great. I would love to help you, and I think that whatever you have questions about, we can either answer those questions or get you in touch with the right people. If at any point you have questions throughout the sessions, by all means, drop them into the chat, and then I will be able to answer them either in real time or at the end of the session. So let's get started. In the chat, what do you think it means to think like an entrepreneur? Independent. Oh, that's a good one. That's a great word. Be open and honest with lots of patience. Yes, be open and honest with lots of patience. That's a great one too. Always looking for opportunities to include growth in the planning process. Oh, these are great. Developing new businesses. These are great answers. What it looks like to think like an entrepreneur and what that means can be very different for everybody. But what I'm going to do is really walk you through. There might be too many C's. I will fix that. If there's any mistakes, I'll go back and check. But thank you for pointing that out. So the first thing that I will do is go ahead and tell you that what I think looks like to think like an entrepreneur is very different for everybody. This session that I am going to introduce you to this course, it's actually not a course that the library has designed. It's a course that NC IDEA has designed, as well as NC Live has sort of given it a platform for access. So we will get started first by introducing you to NC IDEA and NC Live's free entrepreneurial mindset training course. It is free. I'm going to go ahead and drop the link for NC IDEA into the chat, so you kind of have an idea of who NC IDEA is if you have not ever heard of them before. If you have heard of them, great. And then I'm going to show you how to set up an account. I also have written directions, so that way if you at any point need to go back and refer to those directions, if you need to have a sort of step-by-step handout, I will give you that link. And then it's also a shareable link. So if that's something that you think a fellow entrepreneur or friend would benefit from, you can share that with them as well. And then I'm going to provide you a quick virtual tour of the CCCC Library's new small business guide. And then I'm going to give you a final helpful hint about accessing library resources. I do want to go ahead and say that when I send you all these slides, the items will be linked. So you can just click on the slide that you want, and then you'll have access to the links that I'm going to share in the chat as well. Are there any questions thus far? Anything you can think of? Feel free to continue to add them to the chat if you think of anything. Okay, so the objectives for today are to set up a new account for the Entrepreneurial Mindset training course, and then to access CCCC Library's Small Business Guide. So if we can do those two things today, then we have accomplished our goals. Okay, so there are two ways to access the Entrepreneurial Mindset training course. Technically, there's actually three, because one is through NC Live, one is through the Small Business Guide, and then one is through the handout, which is going to kind of basically give you the links directly to all of the materials that you would need. You do not have to memorize this. This, again, is going to be shared with you at the end. So I'm going to walk you through how to set up an account. If you're like, wow, this is a lot, that's okay. You will get all this information a bit later. So I'm going to go ahead and drop that link in there for you so that you can go ahead and take a look at the handout if you would like. And if anybody has trouble with any of the links, you can put that in the session 1 remarks, like, hey, I tried to access that link that you sent. I couldn't do it. Then we will definitely go ahead and try to resolve that. So that'll be a great time for you to say, hey, this link's not working, and I can fix that, and then you'll be able to have access to it. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to go to NC Live, and I'm going to go directly there to the NC Live homepage, and I will go ahead and drop that in the chat there for you so that you have that link as well. All right, you can see here that we are at the NC Live homepage, and this is a great resource because all the libraries in North Carolina that you would likely interact with are going to have access to NC Live, which we're going to be using a lot of in the next 2 sessions. And I think the big thing to kind of keep in mind is that your public libraries are going to give you access to this just as much as CCCC will. So if it is more convenient for you to go to your public library, great. We would love for you to use your public library. If it's better for you to come to the CCCC library, then that's great too. Whatever really works for you is what we want to encourage for you. We want you to feel comfortable doing whatever works best for you, because this is really your experience and your opportunity. So I am now going to go to Browse All Databases. I'm going to click on that. And then you will see here that we are now able to see all of the databases that are available through NC Live. This one is pretty straightforward. You're going to click on the letter E. Okay. And then you will see all the different databases that start with the letter E. And we're going to just scroll down to Entrepreneurial Mindset Training Course. I'm going to click on that. Now, this is a free resource. It's not maintained by NC Live. So what all that means is that basically you do not have to worry about trying to use your library card to access this. This is basically a link that gets you from one place to another without having to log into the library to get there. You will have to create an account for this, but it is pretty straightforward. You can see here it says enroll in the course for free. Now, if you have already seen this before, if you're like, this is totally a repeat of something that I've already done, then that is great. You can log in up here at the top. If this is totally new for you, then you want to click on enroll in course for free. And then what you are going to do is you are going to sign up with your name and your email address. Now, I have actually already signed up. So it is going to look a little different when we do it here versus when you see it in the handout. The handout is going to kind of walk you through the steps one by one of account creation to the sort of signing up for the course. So this will look a little different. But one of the things that I would encourage you to do is when you are picking, you can, you put your name in, put an email address that you're going to be able to access consistently. That's a great question. We started on NC Live, and then we logged in looking through this database here. You can see here the Entrepreneurial Mindset Training course. We clicked on that through the NC Live databases, and then we were taken to the Mindset course. NC Idea helped to host this and created the content, but that is how we accessed it is through NC Live. So you want to pick an email that you're going to be able to access really easily, because this is not going to ask you for a password. It is actually every time you want to log in, going to ask you for the email. It's going to send you a code to that email, and you will use that code to log in every time that you want to pick up and start that course again. Does that make sense for everybody? Okay, great. So one of the things that I would encourage you to do is whenever you have time, you can go ahead and fill that out. And then I will go ahead and tell you that once you sign up, you will see a phrase, and you can see this in the handout, that says, thanks for enrolling the Ice House Entrepreneurial Program. And you are going to receive a confirmation email later. But at this point, you don't actually have to have that confirmation email. You can still access the course. You will just put in your name, your email, and then it will send the code. You'll put in your code, and it will say, thanks for logging into or thanks for signing up. And you'll see a phrase up at the top. It'll say my courses and all courses. And you can click on my courses, and then you will see the Entrepreneurial Mindset Training course. So one thing that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to pause my recording really quick so that I can log in. Okay, so now we're back to what we are going to continue talking about, which is the mindset course and kind of getting enrolled and finishing that enrollment. So when you go to my courses or my dashboard, you'll see your course and you can click on it. Now, it may look a little different visually if you have not started the course, but just to kind of make you aware, the handout has that sort of like total new, I've never set up an account before and I just set one up visual layout. And then once you have started playing around in the course, it'll start to look more visually similar to this. Again, if you're like, this is kind of challenging and I'm not really sure what we're doing right now, that's okay. Feel free at the end of the session, you'll be able to set up your own appointment. If you want to talk through this, we totally can. You can say, hey, I got a little stuck here. And then that way I can help to address individual concerns and questions about setting up the account if you have any. So I'm going to go back to the course, and when you are starting the course, you're going to see a couple of different available options. You can jump right into the course, but I'll go ahead and tell you, it actually is very helpful if you start from the beginning just to kind of give NCIDEA some data. So it helps to start with which library or organizations are you joining us from? And you will see a question that basically says, is this your first time accessing the course? And you can say yes or no. And then you will also see a phrase that basically says, please provide the library name in the space below. And here is a great example. Central Carolina Community College Library. You don't have to put community college system. You can just put Central Carolina Community College Library. And then when you're done, you can submit your answer. Because I've already done this, I've already submitted my answer. My answers are kind of complete, but you will see a submit your answer button down here. You can click on it, and then you'll be able to then proceed to complete and continue. And then it's going to take you through the rest of the course. Now, again, you can jump from session to session, but notice here, this will give you the resources. It'll give you the NCIDEA Essential Entrepreneur Reading List. I will tell you that our library actually has these books available for checkout if you are interested. And your other libraries, your public libraries, can get these for you. If they don't have them, you can order them through those libraries, and they can have them sent over to whatever your home library is so that you can check it out. It'll take you through course instructions, and then it'll kind of tell you what you are going to learn, and then having you think about some things that would be helpful for you as you think like an entrepreneur. Now, somebody said recognizing opportunities. That is you already said it, but this kind of gives you an overview of some things to think about, gives you a little bit more of a perspective on some ways and solutions of how you might approach things that you haven't thought about previously. So a lot of the things that we're going to talk about in the next 2 sessions are very practical. Like, this is how you do this. This is how you go through a database. This is how you search for something. And practical tools are super helpful. This is going to be this course is going to be very self-paced. It's very mindset-oriented, hence the name. But it's not just about what you do, but how you think about what you do. So this is a great course for that. And the content is really interesting. It's very interactive. And it is a great resource. If you feel like jumping around, you can jump around. If you want to work through it in a linear process, you can definitely do that. Does that make sense? I know that it can be hard to look at something someone is doing on a screen and follow along at the same time. So I just want to share with you that link one more time of the handout. So that way, when you are ready to work through everything, you have the handout in front of you, and it can be a little bit more helpful for you. Are there any questions right now that you can think of? If you're having problems with technology, kind of hold on to those at the end, and we can definitely address those. But concept-wise, has anybody got any questions about anything? Okay. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go through real quick the library's new small business guide. We have updated it so that it is hopefully more beneficial for you than the previous one was, and also a little bit more dynamic in the sense of it is a living resource and not just something that sits. So this small business guide, I can't emphasize enough that it's kind of a central hub. It's going to be where anytime I find a resource that I think, hey, I think entrepreneurs might be interested in this, I'm going to put it on that small business guide. Anytime we do a session like this one, anytime we do something that might be interesting or purchase a resource that we think might be interesting, it will go on this guide. So it is a place where you can find sort of all the library's concentrated small business and entrepreneurial resources. And then also it's a living resource. So that way, if there is something that for whatever reason, let's say we remove it from the collection, maybe it's got damaged or something like that, we can take it away and we can replace it with something else. So as things get better and better, we find more interesting and fun tools, we will use that small business guide to be kind of a host location for what the library can offer to you. So the top 3 features I really want to emphasize before we take a look at it is the Small Business Center connections. I cannot emphasize to you enough how great the Small Business Center is. They offer one-to-one counseling, lots of resources. Terry and Philip are awesome. They are so good at what they do, and I cannot tell you enough how much you will benefit from just sitting down and having a conversation with them and getting connected with the Small Business Center. And so if you're like, okay, I'm not sure like what the contact information is for that, the library's guide has all of the connections that you will need, the links, the locations. So there is a tab specifically for that. Philip has dropped his email into the chat. I mean, I cannot emphasize to you enough how much they will help you to blossom in the next steps of the process. They are so great. And the CCCC Library guide also offers market research strategies. Research tends to, I think, feel very academic, but research strategies, especially in picking up industry reports and picking up data and learning about not just demographics, but psychographics and consumer data information, and knowing more about your industry, but also the market that your industry is going into. I mean, all of these things that can seem very academic can be really beneficial for you and can be really beneficial for you as you make decisions about your business. And, you know, one of the things that's really great about market research is that it can help you when it comes time to apply for grants or apply for money in a variety of different contexts or ask for funding from organizations. They like to see numbers. They like to see that you did your research. You don't have to read at a crystal ball and be like, I know exactly what's going to happen in the future. Nobody really does. But market research can get you a little bit closer. And so there's lots of really interesting market research information on the guide itself. And then we're also going to be doing market research strategies and practices in the next 2 sessions. And in the next 2 coming weeks. And then the final thing I want to emphasize is the Book of Business Librarian. That is something that you can do, basically fill out a form, and then you and I can meet and we will chat about what that might look like to do some market research. Now, I will go ahead and tell you, my style is a little different than other librarians. And so I'll tell you, my style is a little more hands-off. I will not, first and foremost, ever give you business advice. That, if you're like, hey, do you think I ought to? No. I don't give business advice in any shape and form. I would be like, have you gone to the Small Business Center to talk about that? Because that sounds like a great question for them. I will show you how to use the library's resources. I will give you the skills and the strategies for how you can approach that. But I will go ahead and say I'm an independent worker. I don't love when people like stand over my shoulder and tell me how to do something. I also don't stand over people's shoulder and tell them how to do things. I'm like, hey, you could try this, this, and this can help you be successful in finding information. But the actual doing it part, I leave that really in your hands, because I think you're capable. And I also think how you think about your business, you know that best. You're the expert in your own business. So I want you to joyfully pursue that. I will help you get connected to the right resources and the information. I'll show you how you can search some of those resources. But ultimately, at the end of the day, you are capable and smart and able to do the necessary work for approaching how you want to do your business. And so that is really like what's great about the Book of Business Library. And I sort of say, hey, look at all these tools you can take with you. And then you sort of set sail on your journey or on your next steps with those tools in mind, but without someone sort of dictating to you what will happen next. The only person dictating to you what happens next is you. And that's something that you can be excited about. Okay. I'm going to now show you the small business guide. I'm also going to give you the link for it, but I'm going to show you how to get to it as well. So here's the link for the small business guide. I've dropped that in the chat for you. The first thing that I would say is you want to go to the library's website. And I'm going to go there first. I will also drop that into the chat. Here's the library's website. Okay, so we're all here on the library's website. The way to find the guide is to go to the research guides. And you can click on that tab. And you can see here that there is really not a, you're not going to see any guides to begin with. You're going to actually click on select your course or program of study, and then you're going to get a drop down of a ton of different guides. Now, because we are primarily a community college, our focus is really students and faculty and staff. And so a lot of this you may see, and if it catches your eye, that's awesome. You feel free by all means to explore, but you're going to see a lot of class content. So it can be a little overwhelming. Your goal is to look for the small business guide, and you can just scroll. Everything is alphabetical. Just keep scrolling, and you will see right here, small business guide. And you can click on it, and it will take you directly to the small business guide. One of the things that I will go ahead and tell you about the guide is that it is something that we will be happy to share with you anytime. So if you're having trouble with the links or you're like, this isn't working for me, I can't access it, you can always email me or call and say, hey, I'm having trouble with this, and we can see if we can resolve the issue. And I'll go ahead and put my email in the chat. I did actually have too many C's in the first slide, but I have fixed it, so when you get it, it will be correct. I just get so excited because CCCC is really great, but also I just love being a librarian. And so it is a joy to help you. And I am like so excited that this is something that might be useful for you. And if you're like, hey, the small business guide, I really think it would be more helpful if you had this. I love your feedback. I think your feedback makes us better. So if you have suggestions, by all means, feel free to share. I will tell you that this first page is really an overview of the contact information for the library. And then here are more instructions for how to access the entrepreneurial mindset training course. Again, those links are right there. I gave you the handout that moves from NC Live to sort of the next steps. This will take you directly to that training course and kind of give you some more information. It's the same information as the handout, just done in a different way. Different learners need different things, and we hope that this allows you, whatever you're learning, to get connected with the right resources. You can see here's some books that we've kind of highlighted. This book actually arrived, Essentialism. actually arrived yesterday. So we're getting it in the collection, and this will show you where you can find those books. If you're like, hey, I love that book, I'd love to check it out. I'll show you at the end how you can get connected with those books, but you can always email me and you can say, hey, Morgan, I saw that Lean Startup book. I think it'd be really cool to have that book to read and check out for a little bit. And we can put that book on hold for you, and you can pick it up at one of our libraries. Or if you're like, public library is easier for me, then I can look for you at the public library and I can say, hey, you can find that one at, Harnett Public, if that's where it's at, and show you kind of the steps for getting connected to the right resources. Now we have a tab for the small business centers. You can see here's the information. Again, I cannot emphasize to you enough what a great resource this is. They are just wizards at what they do. And I appreciate just like all of the stuff that they offer. And this will get you connected to all the different links and the resources that they offer so that it's easy access for you. So then starting a business, I've got different resources that will help you kind of feel like you can work through the different steps of the process. Here, the Chamber of Commerce, thinking big picture. Again, I want to really emphasize, I am not an entrepreneur. I'm a librarian. So I do not, and I will never give you business advice. But I will say, hey, that sounds like a great question for fill in the blank. Or, hey, I read a book on this, or I think a book on this might be helpful. I think we have it at the library, and I'll get you in touch with those resources. And it just basically walks you through building a plan, funding sources, finances, and taxes. Again, we never give and will never give financial advice, but these are some things to think about if you are looking for resources about these specific topics. And kind of walks you through those different steps and allows you to explore a little bit more based on whatever topic you are interested in. And then finally, there's that Book of Business Librarian form. I'm going to go ahead and copy it, and we'll drop that link into the chat, and you can fill that out at your leisure. But basically what will happen is you tell me what you need help with, you fill out your information with your email, times that would work for you to meet, and then I reach out to you and set up a time, whether that's in person or online, and then we just chat. I show you some information, I give you some tools so that you can search the library's databases and their various resources, and then kind of allow you to fly free from there. I will tell you that if this format is like kind of challenging, you're like, this is a lot of information all at one time, you can always email me directly and we can work it out that way too. Again, one of the big things I really want to emphasize is if you're like, yeah, this Google form really isn't for me, I'm not feeling it, that is not a limiter to your interactions with the library. We are here for you. If you're like, Google form is not for me, I don't really like it, then just email me and we can chat and we can kind of figure out, and I'll just ask you the questions through email or through the phone conversation versus through the Google form. It's really not so much about you doing it through this Google form because this is the only way to do it. This is just one way to do it. So I want you to feel confident that whatever way works best for you, we are here for you. Does anybody have any questions about the guide before I move on to the helpful hint and then one more thing, and then that's really it for today. Okay, great. Oh, I see a little thumbs up. So fun. Okay. The final thing I really want to emphasize is about the library's resources and about your local public libraries. So CCCC Library is located, we have a library in each county. We have one in Chatham, Lee, and Harnett. We're on the campus locations. If you live in Lee, Harnett, or Chatham counties, you can get a community card. You can walk in, you have your driver's license, and we'll get you a community card set up. And then that community card will allow you to check out books and materials. And I'll go ahead and tell you that the community cards are really available at Lee and Harnett campuses. Chatham is a little different. It's a joint use library, and they can help you get set up with a public library card. But if you are not a student, but you are a resident of one of these three counties, you can go to the Lee or Harnett CCCC Library locations, and we can get you a community card. And you can check out up to 5 items at a time on your card. And the computers you can use when you are here. We have floor computers. You can sit down and you can use the databases at your leisure. As long as we are open, you can use those computers, and we can help you work through those databases at your leisure. The NC Live Entrepreneurial Mindset course can be accessed pretty much anywhere, because it's not something that forces you to log in with your library card. However, in the next coming weeks, we will be using a lot of databases that it would be super helpful to have a public library card. First off, I love the public library. I think they're great. It's very helpful to have a card, though, especially when accessing these databases when you are not on location. If you happen to be, let's say you're doing a family trip, but you like to work on some of this stuff, and your family trip is in Texas. If you have your public library card, then you're able to access those things because you are a public library card user. You can just log in with your library card and your PIN number, and then you can then access those materials. So if you do not have a public library card, that would be something that I would strongly encourage you to think about getting. And I've got the information here for Lee, Harnett, and Chatham about how you can get a public library card through these 3 counties. Now, the Lee Public Library is available for free to the Lee County residents. If you live outside of Lee County, there is going to be a slight charge, but you can get one. Harnett offers a free public library card for those residents in Harnett, Lee, and Chatham County, and then Chatham offers it to Chatham, Harnett, and Lee County residents. So Lee, Harnett, and Chatham, these right here are going to be your public library cards. The CCCC library card is going to be more information up here. But really, one library card will do you because all of the same resources are available. They all subscribe to NC Live, so all these databases are included. So as long as you have one public library card, you have really had, you've really opened the doors to your success with that card. Oh, I see a question in the chat. Is the community card the same as a regular library card? So that's a great question. So at CCCC Library, if you're not an enrolled student, like you're not a student or staff or faculty member, but you're a public member, then you can get a community card at the Lee and Harnett campus libraries. But those community cards do not work as public library cards. So let's say you come to the Harnett campus of the CCCC Library. First off, if you walk through the doors in the next 15 minutes, you will see me and I'll say, hey, I'm Morgan. Nice to meet you. And we can get you set up with a community card. You could not walk over to the Harnett Public Library and use that community card. You would still need to get a public library card for that. But I'm sort of the opinion if you can get a library card, the more you can have, the better. But that's just me and maybe my librarian heart talking. But this will give you the links that will allow you to learn more information about how you can get a community card or get a public library card, depending on what county you are located in. And again, I'm going to send these slides out, and all these links are going to be available There's a lot of links, so I'm not going to drop them in the chat, but they'll be available when you click on the slides in the follow-up email. Okay. Feel free now to drop any questions into the chat. I'm actually going to give you a link right now that is going to allow you to fill out a form that kind of tells me a little bit more about where you stand about using the resources we talked about today. Also, it allows you a chance to ask some questions if you've got a detailed question. And then it also tells me if you're thinking about something for the next 2 sessions, if you're like, hey, I really got to know this about market research, this is a great opportunity for you to say something and tell me what you're thinking about, because then I can kind of incorporate it in how we search for things and demonstrate how we search for things in the next 2 sessions. If it's specific, great. If it is more general, also great. I have just dropped in the chat that form. If you'll fill that out, that would be super helpful for me. So first question I see here is, which database will I use to get financial information about my business and business financial statements? There's a couple. We're going to use ABI Inform and Data so reference solutions. We're going to really look at those two. So those will be 2 that will be very helpful for you. And the second question I see is, I'm in Wake County. Can I get books at my local library through CCCC Library? No, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. We do not send books to public libraries. However, I will go ahead and tell you, I also live in Wake County, and Wake has a ton of resources. So I don't want to put all my eggs in one basket and say that all the books that we have here at the CCCC Library would be available at the Wake Library for checkout, but a good majority probably would be, and that you can request books through them and they will get those books for you. A librarian at the Wake County Public Library would be happy to help you get the books that you need. Oh, absolutely. Maybe this is just me being a librarian again, but Wake Public Libraries is like, they just hold like such a special place in my heart, because anytime I've ever needed a book, they have gotten me that book, and they've helped me with tons of stuff. So I just want you to know, wherever you're located, the librarians want to help you like that. We love to help. And so wherever you're located, we want you to reach out. So feel free at any point, if you have questions, to drop them in the chat. I'm going to show you my contact information one more time. Look, here's the email. It's correct now. If you have any questions, you can call, you can email, you can drop by. I'm at the Harnett campus library, so I'm at the CCCC campus in Harnett County. You can drop by. I'd be happy to answer any questions. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording, but if you have any questions, you can drop them in the chat. You can email, whatever works best for you. You can fill it out in that form. Whatever you need, we will try to get you in touch with the right person or the right resource, or point you in the right direction so that you can be successful.